The warriors of Numas, the Scarab city, stalk the sands once more as King Tutankhanut and the constructs of Ramhotep the Visionary, the greatest necrotect in history, lead the Tomb Kings into battle on SFO Grimhammer. Numas is one of the few cities in the Land of the Dead that has a symbiotic relationship with the living. The nomadic Scythans provide a useful workforce and cavalry contingent. When it comes to defending the homeland, it's skeletons and constructs in the shadow of their golden god king. And they have one thing to say to the Dark Elf invaders: get off my lawn! Kouran Darkhand, captain of the Black Guard of Nagaron, joins Malekith the Witch King in the deserts for some good old-fashioned plundering. But this time, they might have bitten off a bit more than they can chew. Seraphon will have to put in some serious work if the Dark Elves want to win an away game here. So as the battle starts, Dark Riders with repeating crossbows will find themselves in a less than ideal location, in range of an arrow storm, more than half the unit evaporating in that opening salvo. And this skirmish battle is going to be really important, because Dark Rider repeater crossbows are a big threat to constructs. They have a ton of AP, they have good range. If they're given time to fire, they can easily chunk down Sphinxes and Ushabti. So one of the best ways to mitigate that threat is go heavy on the range play and zone them out entirely, or straight up kill them if they decide to stay in the pocket and trade. And this is why Vanguard isn't always the best trait to have. People like using the tools they're given, but it can backfire pretty hard if it means you start the game in range of a bunch of artillery, or if you end up deploying on top of enemy units that are a lot scarier than you in melee. It can lose you some stuff early. For Numas, Ramhotep the Visionary is a pretty cool guy, has his own pimp and war sphinx. He can summon sepulchral stalkers, grants frenzy to nearby constructs, and has all the same kit as a regular necrotect. So he's a really good choice if you want a hero who can get the most out of your statues. And he's on a war kitty, which means he isn't just there for support. He hits really hard, and we're going to be unleashing the Liger Zeros in this one. King Tutankhanut is a range-focused legendary lord with a body forged from solid gold. His Will Be Done increases accuracy and reload skill for nearby allies, and his Khemrian War Sphinx is all gold everything, just like the Golden God himself. Yeah, he also hits hard and has a 375 range attack too, so pretty versatile lord there. He's going to hit hard in melee, hit stuff from range, pretty useful overall. Got a skirmish heavy build here: Skeleton Horsemen, Ushabti Great Bows, and the Chosen of the Gods. Nakara Horsemen to run protection, the Blessed Legion of Demonetized, and a whole bunch of Skellies and a couple chariots in support. And for the Dark Elves, the Black Guard of Nagaron are out in force. Kouran Darkhand, captain of the Black Guard, wields his halberd Crimson Death, gets some nice weapon damage and melee attack buffs, can make 2 nearby units unbreakable, and his Armor of Grief makes it very difficult for enemy units to escape, lowers their charge bonus and their speed by 72%. So that's scary. He's a foot hero that can be a pretty big issue if Tutankhanut or Ramhotep decide to get close on their Sphinxes. Blackguard will munch them up for dinner in no time flat, so game plan is stay far away from them and Kouran Darkhand if possible, kill everything else first, leave them on an island, and then we can deal with him. Backed up by a Hydra, bunch of Bleak Swords, Malekith on Overwatch with Seraphon, Destroyer, and all his items, and 4 Dark Riders in the Vanguard, trading shots with the Warriors of Numas. And Harpies, Vanguard deployed behind my lines, looking like they're trying to go in and destroy the Blessed Legion of Demonetized. And while he's microing those Harpies, trying to get in on top of the archers, his Dark Riders are on top of the mountain, getting shot up by the Chosen of the Gods. And yeah, it's been a brutal start for the Dark Riders so far. They really just shouldn't be in the pocket trading whatsoever. As soon as he realized that he lost the first half of that first Dark Rider unit, you gotta just say, okay, that's sunk cost, it's gone, nothing I can do about it, retreat back behind the safety of the hill, and worry about other stuff later. And while he was microing those Harpies, yeah, he's just sitting on top of the mountain, getting shot to pieces, and he's coming back down now. He wants a piece of those War Kitties. He wants to shoot into the Khemrian War Sphinxes and tear them up. But what he's doing is exposing his best armor-piercing tools, and at this point, realize, okay, Numas has a huge range advantage. My cavalry is getting torn the F up. I gotta change what I'm doing here. And I think it's about now that the understanding fully sinks in, and he goes, oh crap. My armor-piercing stuff, yeah, I can tear up constructs, but when my Will Be Done is giving a bunch of range buffs to all the Ushabti, all the Skeleton Horsemen, and they outrange me, and they have way more DPS, it's just not going to be a good time for the Dark Riders at the start of this match, and they're getting destroyed. I mean, he's already lost effectively 2 full units, and there are going to be a lot more following shortly thereafter. And the Khemrian War Sphinxes can push up and just completely zone them out and allow those Ushabti great bows even more time to fire in. Now, should all that ammunition be going their way? Probably. I'd say that, yeah, it's probably a pretty good trade for Numas and the Tomb Kings, but you gotta be a little bit careful with the Khemrian War Sphinxes now that they've pushed up, because a couple volleys from those Dark Riders will rack up some serious damage. You can see, even when they miss like half their volley, you can still see the HP bars on those War Kitties drop pretty quick. But the Skeleton Horsemen outrange the Dark Riders, and this is why you love bringing them in this matchup. Them and Nahakara Horsemen are, in combination, incredibly effective for dealing with this kind of skirmish build from the Dark Elves. They outrange them. They have Parthian shot, and they're cheaper. The repeater crossbows pay extra for that armor-piercing DPS, and it's really useful, but in a pure skirmish duel, there are a lot of units that cost less and trade better. And yeah, skirmish battle loses its savor for the Druchii at this point, but they are not ready to give up that hill, not by a long shot. It's the best place on the map to shield yourself from artillery fire, and Darth Vader has the high ground. I mean, him and his evil empire do not want to concede that position and march down into the valley when they're under tons of salvos of Ushabti Greatbow fire. Now, War Hydras have additional regen in SFO, just a beastly stat line, 750 weapon strength, and working alongside those Black Guard, who can become unbreakable from their Sons of Nagaron buff, or from Kouran Darkhand. It's a really potent duo there, for sure. And working together, I think they could take down a Khemrian War Sphinx pretty easily. And if we want to talk about synergy, that Armor of Grief speed debuff will stack with the Cavalry Bane contact effect halberds have in this mod. So, doesn't matter if you're Cav or monsters, if you get caught out, you essentially get stuck in the mud when you commit to a fight against them. Gives halberds a lot more time to get in and get some good damage, which is something they kind of lack in vanilla. They're honestly not a great counter to monsters because they don't have any speed, and monsters can just kind of cycle charge them into oblivion. But here, Cavalry Bane, Armor of Grief together, gonna be pretty scary for these War Kitties. Moving up now, and trying to get these Dark Elves off the hill, and the best way to do that is move the Ushabti Great Bows to the flank and fire into the side of those regiments, and once I have an angle, might be able to force them down that hill. And the Dark Elves are going to have to attack. They are going to have to concede the hill, because if they don't, I'm just going to use all my ammunition on their Black Guard, and by that point they'll be down to about half HP and nowhere near as effective for taking down the Khemrian War Sphinxes. And as Malekith flies towards the camera, the Hydra moving out to the left flank, Chariots going right up the center because they have been completely left exposed. Bleak Swords gonna get completely run over at the crest of that hill, destroyed by a gorgeous cavalry charge with the pyramids in the background, and that just feels good, man. That is what Nakara and the Tomb Kings are all about. Chariot charges, destroying infantry. Good night, sweet prince. Bleak Swords down to half HP off the initial impact, and it's gonna get a lot worse for them. Black Guard moving out to the flank, and all my range stuff is there. They can't catch up to it. So again, move up, get your skirmish stuff in range, shoot them up, and then retreat. And Black Guard are gonna be left in a situation where they would dearly love to start slicing up Khemrian War Sphinxes, but no intention of giving them that engagement. Instead, they can go for the Bleak Swords and start causing some havoc there, maybe some terror routes. Should be cycle charging with the Chariots at this point. I am not doing so. I think I tried pulling them out, and they got roped back into melee combat, taking a lot more damage than they probably should be. But the Black Guard are going to make it into melee with the Skeleton Spearmen and the Ushabti Great Bows, while Doombolt rains down from on high, and Malekith Seraphon looking to get stuck in and shut down those Chosen of the Gods. But meanwhile, Ramhotep the Visionary on his white Liger Zero, and the Golden God himself, Tutankhanut, charging in from the flank, and the War Kitties are just gonna rip up the back of that Black Guard formation. And yeah, in a 1v1 fight where the Black Guard are facing the Khemrian War Sphinxes, they're going to do a lot of damage. Cavalry Bane, all that armor piercing, bonus for storage. It's a great combination for dealing with the statues. But when they're getting charged in the rear, when they're pinned down by a bunch of meat shields, Ushabti in there too, it's not so great. That's about 5,000 gold worth of units, fighting about 3,000 gold. With a rear charge, it's going to hurt a lot. Black Guard took some damage in those charges. Nice Soul Stealer on top of the Ushabti Great Bows, and with those Nakara Horsemen nearby, but Sepulchral Stalkers summoned by Ramhotep the Visionary, and both Tutankhanut and the greatest necrotect in Nakara's history charging in to try to make sure Malekith gets away and leaves those Chosen of the Gods alone. Chariots did stay in melee with the swords for way too long. They got actually kind of dumpstered by that engagement up top, And here, Ushabti Great Bows probably shouldn't be in melee at all. I mean, it's a 40 unit cap battle, so it's a little bit harder to micro than normal. But yeah, bonus versus large, armor piercing, gonna slice into the statues and they will collapse into a heap on the desert floor. Murderous prowess pops for the Black Guard of Nagaron, and now it's gonna get really nasty for the Tomb King's infantry that are still stuck in that fight. Seraphon just got a brutal breath attack on the Chosen of the Gods in the background, and the Dark Elf infantry pushing up hard with the Bleak Swords, trying to push through and get at the Blessed Legion of Demonetized. But here, Hail Hydra my ass! Golden God coming to Captain America that booty. And the double Khemri and Warsphanx is going to be too much for that War Hydra to deal with. Another takes its place, will proc, give it a bunch of health back. But at the end of the day, it can't fight two Warsphanxes on its lonesome. And I think if Malekith was over there, maybe that'd be a fight worth of taking. Like if you add Soul Sealer on top of that, it might have been enough. But yeah, it wasn't going to go well in a 2v1. And the Bleak Swords have been completely surrounded and swarmed by Skelly Boys. Chariots charging in, smashing them from the rear. Skeleton Spearmen holding the line from the front. And they're just all routing. Sepulchral Stalkers getting some poison attacks in on Seraphon and Malekith. And things are definitely shifting in the Scarab City's favor. But that's a huge Soul Stealer. That just hit more than half the army. That's going to generate some good value. And Kouran Darkhand and the Black Guard fighting out with Skeleton Swordsmen as Malekith swoops overhead. Ushabti Greatbow Fire and the Skeleton Horsemen, though, they've been whittling down those Black Guard the entire game, and Realm of Souls has not even procced to the point where Ushabti summons are necessary. Sepulchral Stalkers getting in on top of the leader of the Dark Elves, and as a swarm of cavalry comes in, Ushabti coming in from the flank, Chariots coming in from the rear, the Khemri and Warsphanx is ganging up on Kouran Darkhand and what remains of the Black Guard. Doesn't really matter if you're unbreakable, if you're in pieces on the desert floor. And that's going to be the end of the Dark Elf army for the most part. War Kitty duo way too strong for the Dark Elves to deal with in this one, and it all kind of revolved around that opening skirmish battle. It got pretty nasty for the Dark Elves pretty early in that match. Black Guard are going to rout. It looked like Malekith got pinned down by a net of Amantok and then had nowhere to go as Sepulchral Stalkers munched into that Black Dragon's flank. So, yeah. That's the thing about Vanguard, okay? And it's something that you should always be cognizant of if you're playing as the Wood Elves or Beastmen, particularly in the Wood Elves versus Beastmen matchup, but in other matchups as well, where you know your enemy might focus heavily on ranged play and artillery. You don't want to use it just for the sake of using it. It has to accomplish something. There has to be a payoff to that risk. And using it will always be a risk if the other team has range play or Vanguard units of their own, because you could end up losing units for free. So what is the tactical benefit you gain as a player for using Vanguard? I'd argue in this battle, there wasn't much of one at all. The risk far outweighed any potential benefit, because great bows are very likely to hand you your own ass on a silver platter, or you deploy on top of a Tomb Scorpion or something else. Stayed in the pocket for way too long there, trading too heavily in a skirmish duel. The Dark Elves really had no hope of winning, and it all kind of crumbled after that. In that situation, realize your opponent has the ranged advantage, retreat the Dark Riders to be used as support once the main fight begins, and bum rush the Tomb King center. Force a fight around Kouran Darkhand and those Black Guard, keep Malekith high and tight to swoop in once the Sphinxes commit, drop some Words of Pain and Soul Stealers into those engagements, and then the Druki have a great chance to take that battlefield. The Dark Riders could have made a huge impact on that game if they're held in reserve and wait till the War Sphinxes get up close and personal and then just unleash close range volley over and over again into that stuff. And then, yeah, you're going to lose some Dark Riders to Ushabti Greatbow Fire, but at least you're not just losing that entire skirmish contingent for free right at the start of the match. But yeah, I mean, the Tomb King's army there, I was pretty happy with it. It just has a lot of threats. There's a lot of things you have to worry about as a Dark Elves player, and it can be pretty hard to deal with for sure. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out.